Wakanda forever, T'Challa forever. It's never been about the man, so what is we saying?
We will not recast the character.
We cast T'Challa.
When Chad passed, it was a real conversation we had with Coogler, and it was a fast conversation. It wasn't weeks, it was minutes of, we have to figure out how to move this franchise on without that character.
That is absolutely right. Right, Mark? That T'Challa is not a legitimate son. I didn't see a marriage.
Say I haven't seen the movie, and I will not see the movie because they killed off T'Challa. But there has never been a scene, to my understanding, that showed T'Challa marrying Nakia. Therefore, the child was born out of wedlock based on our Western customs. Furthermore, considering our Western customs, that child would therefore be a bastard. And my understanding is he wasn't even born in Wakanda. He was born in Haiti, right? So even though he was born of Wakandan parents, he is a Haitian kid. So, how are you going to sit up here and say this is the king, this is a recast? And oh, by the way, if you're willing to recast with a child, then why not just go the whole full step and recast with an adult? That's never made any sense to me from the recast, non-cast or contingent.
But the name of this stream is To Child Neglect. And as I'll tell you every single week, child neglect is wrong. To child neglect is necessary. So long as that studio tries to pass off this kid as some sort of noble, as T'Challa.
But
I refuse.
This is the thing, brother. This is the thing. We're going too quickly. Wakanda is the #1 place on the planet Earth leading in technology and health. You mean to tell me that they could get Bucky back together? They could have froze Bucky's body until he got himself together.
That was Wakanda?
But they couldn't freeze T'Challa's body until they figure out what was going on. You mean to tell me that their technology wasn't on par to figure out? You mean to tell me she could figure out the heart-shaped herb? They knew about the heart-shaped herb, but it couldn't cure this mysterious disease. What the freak was this mysterious disease?
They helped Agent Ross after he got shot.
In science fiction, it is well established that when you freeze a person, whatever maladies that they have, whatever health concerns they have, it is frozen in time. It no longer progresses. That's just something that stops the clock, right? Why could they not stop the clock, like Fatal J just said, and put T'Challa up in a cryostasis? He is your monarch. Do you think that he's not planning for the future of his nation, wanting to sit up here and leave them rudderless, kingless, monarchless? That doesn't make any sense. This just goes to show the poor writing by Coogler and the poor planning by Nate Moore, who needs to be fired.
Josh, you're not into the comic books. Josh famously once said, well, I edited a video about a comic book, so I feel like I read it. Josh is a joke. Josh could...
That's crazy. Took that way out of context, but I'll accept it. I mean, just honestly, I feel like I've been lied to from Marvel, specifically about the fact that, Nate Moore specifically said himself, like, we need to fall in love with the character of T'Challa in order to, be in love with the series with Black Panther. And yet here we are, not even a couple of years later, and that whole character is not even a part of the franchise. Absolutely nuts. I don't even understand how you can get from point A to point B on that.
And can we just keep it all the way funky? And I'm looking at you, Marvel. T'Challa is the dopest character y'all ever came out with in the MCU. And no, I'm not just saying that because I'm black either. I'm just keeping it all the way funky. He's dope. And look, when I walked out of the theaters, when I seen that first Black Panther movie, and let me check to see if my wife was watching. The only way I can equate it to the feeling I had when I walked out is when I got my first piece of glass.
Poontang pie.
And you add that word with something else. But what I'm saying is this. That feeling was so magnificent. That movie stayed with me for months. The music was perfect. The scenes was perfect. The only thing, I'm a harsh critic at times. The only thing that kept that movie from being a complete perfect movie was that infight between Killmonger and T'Challa. And it brought our people together.
Yeah, that's my biggest criticism of that movie.
We showed up. We showed up at the theaters in droves. We had our African attire on. We showed up.
It was a moment for sure.
And maybe that was too much.
No. I hate when people.
No, I'm not speaking for us. I'm speaking for the company.
No, I understand that. No, because understand the people who made the decision to get rid of the character are Black folks. It was Ryan Coogler and Nate Moore. This was a decision by an emotional creative in Ryan Coogler, who was supported by an individual who doesn't like comic books in Nate Moore, because Nate Moore is the one who signed off on this, walked Ryan Coogler into the office of Marvel for Kevin and said, hey, this is what we're going to do. The white guy in the room, Kevin, didn't want to overturn his Black creative and said, hey, whatever you guys want to do, I'll support you. I wasn't there. I wasn't a fly on the wall. But when you look at all the statements that are out there, all the public comments, all the interviews, this is me extrapolating from those interviews and things of that nature that I've seen that brings me to this conclusion.
And they could have waited a year or two on down the line. So I definitely agree. But this is what happens. It happens all the time. But this is what happens when you have directors and writers who don't care about the lore, don't care about the characters, don't care about the comic books.
Kevin cares. The issue is Nate doesn't care as much as Kevin does. And that's why he was allowed to make the decision or support the decision that Ryan wanted to make.
But you know what? I blame Kevin Feige as well, because he is the last say so at the end of the day.
Probably 50 Ryan Coogler.
Yes, sir.
30 with Nate Moore.
Yes, sir.
And then the remaining 20 for Kevin Feige for signing off on that. But again, you got to look at the racial component of it. He's got 2 Black folks coming into his office saying, hey, Chadwick Boseman was beloved. People, meaning us, aren't going to accept anybody else in this role. We need to kill the character.
So how come we're not ascribing any blame to the fans? Because them and their sentiments of, well, what do you think? They're just going to recast and just forget about Chadwick Boseman? That's disrespectful. Like, they better not do another one. That's how people were talking.
People were talking about that after the fact, after August, after September, going into 2021, 2022, before the movie came out. This was a decision.
That was me.
You played a snippet of it, Chill, where you can hear Nate Moore basically saying, hey, we made this decision in a matter of minutes. They weren't thinking about us, the fans, the customers, the consumers. They were thinking about the fact that Ryan Coogler was emotional. And again, there's nothing wrong with emotions. There's nothing wrong with being sad because someone who you genuinely cared about died. I don't want to seem harsh. However, this is a job, okay? For those of you listening, if you have a job and one of your coworkers dies, guess what? Your company will, have some card passing around. They'll send out a cake, but by Monday, that job will be back up on monster.com or Indeed or whatever job search that's out there to get somebody to replace them. Nate Moore's on record for saying that he doesn't want directors who are immersed in the comic book lore. He wants basically noobs, as they say, to come in and direct this stuff, who don't have respect for the character, respect for the content.
And that's why The Marvels was the worst MCU movie that performed in the box office.
There's a lot of reasons why it underperformed, but it was a good movie.
I never did see it. I'm like you when it comes to Wakanda Forever. I never did see
it was
The
good.
Marvels.
Take me through this. What am I looking at?
This was about 2 to 3 weeks after Chadwick Boseman died.
All right.
And even then, people who were non-comic book fans, when I was on Facebook, were saying that they needed to kill off T'Challa.
Chadwick, RIP, did a spectacular job in the role. This will be what he's most remembered for. But character, T'Challa is bigger than one actor, one artist, one writer. You don't abandon 50 years of storytelling when you lose any one artist. Mourn, honor the dead, sure, but you keep moving forward. There's also folks elevating Shuri's character into more than what she is. A meme circulating talking about, did you really write talking about how she had to be held back from attacking M'Baku on Challenge Day. When you watch the video, it's clear she was shook.
People were trying to make it seem that Shuri was this big bad warrior, and she just wasn't in the MCU.
And here you are saying in September, I'm on record saying that I take no issue with Shuri having the Black Panther mantle for one movie, the majority of Black Panther 2. Explain it as T'Challa is injured at the beginning of the film. She has to take over at the end. Then at the end, he recuperates, and we see the new actor. Hey, kind of like how they did it in that comic book story where Shuri becomes Black Panther, huh? Shuri has a whole movie to shine, and you get MCU T'Challa, i.e. Chadwick Boseman, fans to come to terms that there is a new actor in the role. See, like, you break it to them softly. I agree with this. Also, the new actor doesn't have to appear so soon behind Chad. Folks need to understand Chadwick was dead, but T'Challa is eternal. It's so very upsetting that folks want to abandon and get rid of the first Black superhero. Saying this and criticizing MCU T'Challa fans isn't gatekeeping. The contingent just realizes the character is larger than just what they see on screen. I agree with this so much. I was talking about then you said this in July 2023, right? Yeah, before E-Man made it popular the way he did. I laid out a logical way for them to continue with the story of Black Panther without killing the character. They could have done this, or made it during the blip, shaking my head. Well, I said the blip thing too. I think that's what Fatal J is trying to say when he said that I said the blip before E-Man said the blip. I don't mean that as a competitive, like, any negative way when I said that. But yeah, the blip also. There was a 5-year
making the blip, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but making the blip, you get the same emotional beats that you got in Wakanda Forever because your king is dead, you're sad, you're mourning him, you know that he's gone. But then, oh, by the way, at the end of Black Panther 2, if it was set during the blip, you show the Avengers Endgame scene when he comes out of the portal, and then in the very next movie, or actually as a cameo in some other movie, you have him make an appearance. Because all of us know that he's dead. When Don Cheadle showed up in Iron Man 2 and it wasn't Terrence Howard, we all knew that it's the same guy, even though that they looked differently. So, we as an audience aren't that stupid. So it doesn't have to be explained that.
Oh, no. We're not that stupid, but we'll get the okie doke and just and take this to child. Do you know how many Twitter people are saying, you already got a recast? What are you talking about? It's right there. That's a child. And we reject, like, everyone I have here rejects that character as the T'Challa recast. And then the Jaded Fanboy adds that the MCU had no justification killing off T'Challa, not to mention how badly they screwed it up. Hey, listen, you think it's just us? It's that time of the show, friends. Let's hear from the Ally of the Week.
T'Challa, the hero that I needed growing up in Uptown Montreal. That's why I'm the Ally of the Week. Back at you, Chill.
I appreciate that so much. The Basco scenario, YouTuber extraordinaire, recognizing that he put his foot down. He said, I am going to stand on the front line too. You see, it don't matter if you're black or white. Recast T'Challa. It don't matter if you're tall or short. Recast T'Challa. It doesn't matter if you're dyslexic. T-cast T'Challa.
I have been collecting Black Panther for well over 30 years.
Wow.
What's disappointing? Shut up. What's disappointing is the fact of how Marvel is discounting us, the long-term fans, with the decision that they made. Understand, but for us who are comic book collectors and readers, they wouldn't have anything to sell for the screen. We're the ones who have invested our time and, more importantly, money by keeping these intellectual properties alive, by going to the comic book stores once a week, once a month, whenever, scraping together back in the day our nickels and dimes to buy these things. And then to just say basically, hey, you know what you guys want doesn't matter. I understand if they can't please everybody, but at least Tony had a full narrative arc. Steve Rogers had a full narrative arc. Hell, Thor has had a full narrative arc. And the fact that Scott Lang, Ant-Man, had a full trilogy before Black Panther did, and Spider-Man, who was introduced in the same movie as Black Panther, had a full trilogy before he did, is a disservice to that character. And that's why I say fire Nate Moore, give Ryan Coogler some, associate producer credit, bring on a whole new creative team and let them do what they need to do to bring back T'Challa.
If this was year 2053, okay, the MCU had a great run, it ended, and they did reboot, and it's brand new. If the actor who they cast to play T'Challa were to die then he would be the second guy to play T'Challa in movies, and we wouldn't have this unnecessary attachment and link that Chadwick has with T'Challa. And when I say we, I don't mean myself, Fatal J, ATL Blurred, and Josh. I mean the people who attached them, the studio who decided to make the irrational decision. We would understand that this is character just like Superman, except he's black, which I think is the tagline of this episode. He's just like Superman, but he's black.
And let me show you how important he is. Before Wesley Snipes touched Blade, he wanted to do Black Panther.
People constantly say, well, they're going to, at some point, reboot. You'll get him in the future. Well, look, the realities are that I've probably had more summers behind me than I do ahead of me. I don't want to have to wait another 20 or 30 years.
Okay, let me cut you off. I don't care about Mark and his selfish because he's at the second half of his life. I care more so about the urgency of the benefits of representation that the global experience today. Every passing year without a legendary black character on the same level and equal to the whites is a year where a black character isn't seen as equal as the whites. F Mark and his, yeah.
That's 5 years. 5 years since T'Challa has been on the screen that we haven't seen him. Last time we saw him was in 2019. And, basically going to Chill's point, 5 years from now, there are going to be people who aren't going to be as attached to this property because the character hasn't been seen. If whoever's playing Batman Bruce Wayne died, the very next movie would not be Batman Gotham Forever, where they focused on Alfred, Commissioner Gordon, Barbara Gordon, and Dick Grayson.
I want to see what they come up with this third one. The third one is going to be real interesting because, of course, Wakanda Forever did good. So they're going to come out with something else. I want to see in this third movie if they give us T'Challa and then not son T'Challa. So I'm not going to say Ryan Coogler get fired. I'm not going to say Nate Moore get fired because we all been in situations where we led ourselves with emotions and we regretted it later.
I agree. I think Nate Moore shouldn't be fired necessarily, but he shouldn't have anything to do with Black Panther anymore. Maybe he should work on a different IP. Fatal J said, maybe he should work on some Captain America movies or something.
Not even What If Black Panther?
No. It's clear that he doesn't understand what's going on with the character. He lied to us as fans. I'm cool.
So he shouldn't be on the property, i.e. fired. That's what that means.
I see you got a t-shirt saying Black Panther. We got Planet Fanatics who's got a t-shirt also saying the Black Panther. First of all, mic check. No T'Challa.
No dollar.
It sounds like Planet Fanatics is in the building. So what do you think about the Nate Moore, the associate or the executive producer of this movie? You want to keep him?
Are you asking me, do I want to keep Nate Moore?
Or not fire him? Or
no, I don't want to keep Nate Moore. I guess I'm very, I used to be more positive thinking when it came to the future of BP and the MCU, because the MCU at the time, although losing T'Challa was what it was at the time, the MCU was a lot more positive than it is now. So I guess that was also hopeful as well. But now I have no hope in anything that they are, unless it's a reboot. Like I said this on my channel, unless it's a reboot.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, if it's a reboot, and I mean everybody's got to go. And I love Denai. But you're too attached. And I got it. I understood everything that everybody was saying during the time that when Chad passed and everything like that. Like as fans, we mourned. I didn't know Chad like Denai. I didn't know Chad like Ryan or the others did. But at the end of the day, once the mourning is done, you still have a job to do. You still have a job to do.
Real quick. I think you see where I'm at. Okay. Mm-hmm. In game is peak. Now you can see where MCU is going.
Right. Oh yeah.
So I'm like you, like they dropping the echoes and all this. I don't care. I'm literally not hyped. Of course I'm gonna go see Deadpool 3.
Of course.
But I'm not hyped because I saw that before with No Way Home. All the characters in there. We seen that. So like you said, if they drop a Black Panther 3, okay. You know what I mean? Because it's such they on a downward spiral.
Yeah.
That I really don't, you know what I mean? So the only way you can get me back is if you reboot. You have to reboot. You have to.
Grief
Okay.
has no time limit. You know, nobody. I can't.
In Hollywood, it does. The show must go on.
In a job, yes, because I use that as an example. You know, if I take days off of my actual job to grieve, my job's going to give me that, and they're going to grieve with me. But at some point, they're going to expect me to bring my ass back to work and do my job.
They had 11 months, bro. I mean, you know, understand, like you said, there is no time limit on grief. I understand that. I respect that. They knew Chad, shared meals with him, laughed, joy, sadness, whatever.
Yeah, for 3 months on, you know, it's not like he let them know about his sickness, so they weren't.
Oh
that
no,
close.
I agree. I'm not defending that at all. I'm agreeing, but go ahead there.
But understand, you know, it's not like he died August 20th, and they said, "Okay, guys, we need you back on set on September 13th." They had 10 months, 11 months actually, to deal with their grief. And I want you to think about this. In the Fast and Furious franchise, they shut down production for 5 months. Then in April of the following calendar year, they went back to work. This is a job. They are people who are paid to pretend. That is their literal job description. With the camera rolling, pretend that you are okay, say your line, do your job, and then at the end, you guys commiserate together and be sad and have a bonfire, whatever, in Chadwick's honor. But this is your job. Do your job. Be professional. Chill just said the show must go on.
Yeah, I completely agree.
This came out in June 23, 2012.
Oh, I did a video on that. He said way before the movie he wanted to do the movie.
And we're speaking about the latest actor, Aldous Hodge.
And he will be perfect for the role.
Yeah, no, he'd be great. He's definitely on our list.
Growing up, I was a fan of Black Panther and X-Men comic books. I also was a huge Batman fan. There's recently been a little buzz online about Marvel pushing for Black Panther. A reminder, this is from 2012. And I've been in love with the idea for years. I want the fans to know that the one role I really want to play is Black Panther. He didn't say superhero role. He didn't say anything. He just said the one role of all the roles that exist. I grew up loving the Marvel world and grew up on martial arts. I still train. When Black Panther came around, he was almost like an not an African American, but you know what I mean. He probably means like a dark-skinned person. Batman. He's like a black Batman is what he's trying to say. Aldous is 25, best known for, he's known for a lot more than that. But for him to recognize the character and separate it from an actor because an actor hadn't played him yet, that's the way you're supposed to think of these characters, right? We lost the character out of it, and we got a child out of it, and they expected that to be satisfactory. The mantle is not what I'm in love with, nor am I in love necessarily with the country or being a king. These are attributes. What he is, though, and who he is, needs to return to the screen. However you do it. You can say that it was a fake body. The body was a scroll. You can say numerous everyone just left me. What happened? Somebody wrote something in the private chat.
Somebody clipped that. He said
they just left me. They've neglected me. It's not chill neglect. This is to child neglect. And I'm trying to bring it back to the to child because that is kind of like what I want to be doing. I want to be rejecting that kid and unified with our rejection of that kid as a T'Challa recast.
And people need, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Chill, but people need to understand something. We were having this discussion weeks ago on social media, specifically Twitter. People need to understand that when we call the Haitian bastard child, we are talking about the character, not the cute.
They know that.
No, they don't.
Some of them don't. But some of them, bro, I'd be like, come on, like, we not.
They're like, how you talking about that little baby like that? Lady, we're talking about the character, not the actor. You know, it's ridiculous.
It's mind-blowing how T'Challa and his mom got killed in the same movie. Yeah, did they really need that much more motivation? And still think that TJ would be allowed to amount to anything, even if he becomes Black Panther. One thing I want you to focus on Raptor Cloak's comment. Instead of calling that kid the Haitian bastard Toussaint, instead of calling him T'Challa, he referred to him as TJ because we know that it is not the same person. I go with T'Child. I think Planet Fanatics is more of a TJ guy, yeah?
Yeah, I'm TJ T'Child bastard.
Back in the bus? Josh, what do you usually refer to TJ as?
T'Child. It usually works. Yeah.
Mark, what's your word?
I don't refer to him a lot, but if I got to go with something, that's it.
If right, like Josh just said, if I have to refer to him, he is the Haitian bastard child. Each and every time you have to say the whole thing. It's like a Tribe Called Quest.
You guys are hilarious. I'm gonna ask the live chat also. What do you call him? Just type in your little answer.
They're young enough. Most of them are tall enough. Pretty much all of them are good actors. You notice that John David Washington is not included, and they are who could very well be T'Challa.
I call him to Junior. I call him Lil Saint. T'Child Junior replacement bastard.
Check that out that I sent you in that tweet.
I rarely acknowledge him, but I use T'Child. To Junior is a step.
He's a scroll.
The accent is a question for everybody, whether they can do it or not. And that's something that I would trust the casting director and the auditions process can solve. And if I see the guy on screen, he won't have the accent that Forrest Whitaker had, for the main character. It'll be better than what Forrest gave us.
It's not an African accent, but Danson did a hell of an LA accent in Snowfall.
And I didn't realize that he was actually a Brit until
I didn't know that.
Right. And
it was very believable.
He is actually the son of African immigrants to England. And so it is not outside of the realm of possibility or a huge stretch for me to believe that any African dialect spoken in English, that he would be able to nail that accent.
If they do plan to keep the Black Panther franchise, with them digging their heels so deep into not recasting and continuing on, I think as of now, they're bringing Divine and the cast over in the reboot, and they're going to continue on, and he's still going to be T'Challa. And what they're going to do to these ignorant MCU fans is they're going to take those stories that we know as Marvel fans of T'Challa and give them to Divine's TJ and have him play those out as T'Challa.
You see, guys, you get your representation. You see, what we wanted. There's a black character. His name is T'Challa. He's going to be the Black Panther. What are you guys mad about? Well, that's temporary. And all the love and all the resources given to that character won't return the same way Superman is perennial and Batman is perennial. And that competition that actual T'Challa was to all the other superheroes, he was on that level.
Man, yeah.
That's meaningful. This the TJ kid giving him resources just so that you can never use them again is literally a waste of resource. It's making it so that you can't ever get to number one and stay number one. We can make a character get really hot. He'll have more movies than T'Challa, and then he goes away. Reboot happens, and T'Challa is T'Challa again. And what about all that work you did on TJ? What a waste of reason. What we're trying to do is be equal with our other racial, ethnic group. It's really just one, but that's what's meaningful, to get somebody up that high. Any love given to T'Child isn't that. I'm on the recast T'Challa hashtag now.
It sounds like a broken record. It gets exhausting, saying so many times over and over and over again that how important this character is, and not just the importance of the character to our culture, but importance of the character to the culture outside of our culture that only looks at our culture in stereotypical ways that are shown in films and films and TV shows and entertainment in general. We need to be shown in that light that the Black Panther film first showed us in. Not just the Black Panther film, but if you pick up, the Black Panther comics, the rich history that we're shown, just all of that, we need to be shown in that light. And when we're not, and you have us playing a villain or an absentee father, or go ahead there. No, because I've said this. So
right. One of the things for me, and to piggyback off what you're saying, is that for me as a comic book reader and fan, as a Black person, especially a Black kid growing up in the 1970s. Yes, we had electricity. Yes, we had indoor plumbing back then. But
don't lie.
But seeing somebody who was not formerly enslaved, somebody who was not a former street hood or hustler like Sam Wilson was, somebody who was not a convicted felon like Luke Cage was, even though it was wrongfully convicted. You had somebody who was a monarch, who was in charge of his own nation on the same footing as Namor, or as the same footing as Thor. who was honorable. Not only was he honorable, but he's considered one of the smartest people on planet Earth in the MCU. Oh, by the way, he's rich. You know what I'm saying? So there are a lot of positives around this character. And finally, I want to say is this, you know, a lot of people are against, some people are against this, but I want to see him with Storm. I want that storyline brought to the screen. One of the things that is missing in Black comics, specifically from the big three,
yes, sir.
DC, Marvel, is a lack of Black love. What do I mean? You don't have a Reed and Sue. You don't have a Spider-Man and Black Cat when it comes to Black superheroes. You have maybe very brief unions like Blue Marvel and Monica Rambeau. They were together for 3 issues of something, right? Storm and T'Challa, their relationship in comics goes back literally 40 years. In Marvel 2-in-1, back in 1981, 1982, is number 100. Reginald Hudlin, shout out to Reginald Hudlin. He said on Twitter yesterday to me that those 2 characters are the most powerful MU Marvel Universe couple. Think about that. You have the king of an independent nation and an Omega level mutant who should be in love, and their progeny should be such that they could be Omega level mutants themselves. Because think about what he did back in 2015, whenever this book was written. After a wedding during the height of the Civil War conflict in comics.
In 06.
06. During the height of that, everybody put their beef aside, went to Wakanda to watch Storm of the X-Men and T'Challa of the Avengers get married. Who else was there? Uatu the Watcher. Uatu the Watcher doesn't show up in comic books unless something magnanimous is about to happen. He was there for their union. And then the X-writers or whoever wrote X-Men versus Avengers versus X-Men just threw it away, and it never made any sense to me. I'm a huge critic of the Coach run. I did not like the Coach run. But what I did appreciate was the fact that he was getting Storm and T'Challa back together organically. Then the writer after that just completely and totally destroyed it.
You see how he writes in his tweet Black Panther and Storm? He doesn't say T'Challa and Storm. It's understood Black Panther is the Black Panther. Should be the most powerful couple in the Marvel Universe. That's what I designed them to be, and that's why they are not. He was quote tweeting this schmuck over here, ATL Blurred.
He was responding to me because I tagged him in a tweet where somebody was talking about Storm and T'Challa being together.
I loved the beginning. I loved everything that you just said, but everything that, especially the beginning, you know, that is one thing that I always talk about, you know, for people that were born during those times, when the books, you know, when the comics, you said you were born in the 70s. So the comics came out in the 60s. Being born in so you were born when?
In the 60s.
Oh, you were born in the 60s. Okay, so even that's what I'm talking about. So you grew up with this. And so you waited so however long to see the character on screen. And then to have the character just so, you know, selfishly yanked off. And again, I applaud everything you just said. So yeah, I agree.
Mark is lying. He was there for the Tulsa race riots. He was present.
I was a baby, so I don't remember it.
Yeah. A literal waste of time, money, and effort diluting the character of T'Challa. Newbie Comics was in the building. Kate Bishop ran the ones with Kingpin and won. An unnecessary waste of time, yeah. We got... Huh? What's that word mean?
Polyamorous is basically a throuple, or more than 2 people. Yeah.
So he says that's 1.5 Black love right there.
Yeah.
We rejected T'Challa. That's what we came together here to say. Yep. It's not nothing against Divine, but T'Challa neglect is necessary. We want to recast, and we will come every week to tell you just how badly T'Challa is needed, while not recognizing that TJ is T'Challa. With that, we are out. Peace.